Thank you very much. And to our witnesses here today, Assistant Secretaries Donfried and Walder, welcome to you. Thank you for being here to discuss an important topic regarding strengthening the NATO alliance. I'd like to take you back to my service as U.S. Ambassador to Japan. There I spent a tremendous amount of my time and effort in increasing the capabilities of the U.S.-Japan alliance on a military front, trying to ensure that the agility, the interoperability, and the overall military capability was being maximized for our combined forces. I worked very often with then Prime Minister Abe on this topic. I support our current Ambassador Emmanuel as he works with current Prime Minister Kishida in the same arena. It's very important. Up front, I'd like to say I support Finland and Sweden's accession to NATO because their addition will be accretive to the overall capabilities of the alliance, and I appreciate that. But as the United States advances its NATO policy in the 21st century, I believe it's going to be important to get back to the basics. And there, I mean, in the very first instance, NATO is a military alliance that needs to focus on deterring military threats with real military capabilities. And if the last year has demonstrated anything, it's that the NATO alliance must stand stronger to better deter Russia's military threat to us and to our allies. So my first question will be to you, Assistant Secretary Walder. When will Finland and Sweden respectively meet the goals of spending 2% of GDP on defense? And I know that Finland's closer than Sweden, but both are on track, as I understand it. But can you give me your sense of when they'll meet their goals?
Sure. It's a great question, Senator, and I share your commitment to making sure that NATO allies are contributing to security of the alliance. Finland already in 2022 does meet the 2% floor, the Wales pledge. Mm-hmm. Finland's defense spending is at 2.2% of GDP. And Sweden...
That's projected for 2022?
This is for 2022.
Okay.
And Sweden's government has committed to meeting the 2% pledge as soon as possible and no later than 2028. And I would note also that Sweden meets the NATO, the less cited but no less important NATO standard of spending at least 20% of its defense budget on acquisition of capabilities.
I met with Sweden's ambassador recently, and she told me in very encouraging terms that they were doing everything they could to accelerate their progress toward that goal. So thank you for that. Assistant Secretary Walder, you also talked with Senator Kaine about some of the current capabilities that Finland and Sweden will contribute to the alliance. Can you give me a sense of what you'd like to see them develop for the future?
Certainly, one of the hopes would be that both countries would contribute, and I believe will contribute, to the battle groups on the eastern flank, the 8 eastern front countries of NATO. Finland and Sweden both have very strong bilateral relations with the Baltic countries in particular.
Yes.
And Sweden and Finland can become not just strong defense partners or allies of the alliance, but strong contributors as those countries face Russian aggression right on their borders.
I hope you'll work to guide their acquisition strategies in that direction, and I look forward to their contributions. I want to sum it up, though, with you, Assistant Secretary Walder. It's your testimony today, I presume, that from the Defense Department's perspective, that adding both Sweden and Finland to the NATO alliance will indeed strengthen NATO's military capabilities and therefore their deterrence capabilities.
Yes, Senator, that is the Department of Defense assessment.
Thank you very much. I'd like to turn to you, Assistant Secretary Donfried. I support adding Finland and Sweden to the NATO alliance, as you know, but I also want to ask you about other important things that the United States should be doing to counter and to, frankly, defund Russia's military aggression. The Biden administration's energy policies have perversely helped to fund Putin's war machine in Ukraine. Do you dispute the fact, or the assessment at least, that despite international sanctions, Vladimir Putin's regime has earned nearly $100 billion from energy exports during the first 100 days of Russia's unprovoked and unjustified invasion of Ukraine?
Well, Senator Hagerty, thank you for that question. And what I would say is I think it's a complicated equation, because what we've seen is that as more Russian oil is going off the market, we're also seeing that Russia has declining oil profits as a result of being forced to sell its oil at steep discounts. And so there's a calculation about what is the discounted price of that Russian oil, and then how does that affect the scarcity of supply?
Actually, what's happened is there has been a windfall that has come to Russia. Do you accept the fact that oil and gas markets are global markets?
Yes, they are.
And all other things being equal, if the United States were to actually ramp up its oil and gas production, would the increase of energy supplies actually lower the global price of energy?
An increase in energy supply should reduce the price.
It certainly should. And if you think about Russia's energy exports, they made up half of Russia's budget, more than half of their budget, before the windfall that's come into the marketplace took place. Is a price increase actually helpful or hurtful to Vladimir Putin?
So a price increase is helpful, but if you're having a challenge selling Russian oil because of the sanctions, that is what has forced some price decline on Russian oil in particular.
So the reports are that Russia has actually had a massive increase in its revenues from oil sales just in the first 5 months of this year. Its oil sales are up close to $100 billion. That's more than enough. In fact, almost 1.5 times its annual military budget. So in effect, we are inadvertently funding Vladimir Putin's war machine. That's the point that I'm trying to make. And I want to encourage you to please take the message back home that when President Biden decided to wage the war on fossil fuels here in America, it has a global impact. And that global impact not only hurts American consumers here at home, but it also is hurting the brave Ukrainians that are trying to fight right now because they're also a casualty of President Biden's
Time of the senator has
anti-energy
expired. I just want him to acknowledge I've given him a significant amount of time over the time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope this will change.
Thank you.